Dr. Fong, and I am so excited to be back. I have been on a little bit of a hiatus for the last month or so. The Cleanbody team and I have been really busy at work revamping all of the Cleanbody programs, and we're really excited to launch our new programs. They're really more encompassing, more comprehensive. We're really covering a lot more in these programs now. So I'm so excited. And I wanted to reintroduce myself for those of you guys who maybe recently followed me. I am Dr. Fong. I am an eczema survivor, and I became a naturopathic doctor just because I had a lot of health issues. I was born with really severe eczema, and as I grew, I also then got gut issues. Later on in my teen years, I had hormonal issues, and I had difficulty losing weight. I was pre-diabetic. I had high cholesterol levels. I had kidney stones, and you name it, right? And what happens when we have imbalances is not just one system gets off, is all of our systems start to, one at a time, really start to disrupt. And so our Cleanbody program is really geared for this now. And so we have some new assessments out. So if you guys wanted to check out the new assessments and you wanted to assess your Cleanbody organs, we have 17 Cleanbody organs, and we want them all to be clean. And so if you do our assessment, you'll get a score that lets you know how clean your organs are. So you can go ahead and do those assessments. If you go to the link in my bio, you can see free assessments, free Cleanbody health assessments there, and you can click there and do some of our assessments. So we have our organ assessments, 17 organs that we're actually going to assess for you. And then we have our pillars assessment. And so that's also something in our program is we've identified 5 pillars that everyone really needs to work on. And those are clean food, which is you're making sure you're getting that good nutrition and not eating toxic foods. And we can test for like what specifically might be toxic for you. What might be toxic for you may be different than other people. And then across the board, there's definitely toxic foods that everyone is probably eating that we need to get rid of. And then we have clean mind, which is so important. Clean mind it's really one of the most important pillars, because if we are in fight or flight mode, which I was in fight or flight all the time, and one of the tell signs that you're in fight or flight mode is you're a night owl. If you're a night owl and your energy levels are just kind of reversed, that was one thing that was going on for me is at night, I had so much energy and I just didn't want to wake up in the morning. And that's often a sign of just kind of imbalance in your circadian rhythm. And it was because I was stressed. I had a lot of stress. And a lot of that stress came from traumas that I had that I was just kind of carrying, and I just kept getting triggered. And so clean mind is really important. Really understanding the baggage we're carrying around emotionally and really cleaning that up. And so clean mind is our second pillar. Our next pillar is clean fit, just like it sounds. It's fitness and making sure you're moving your body. And we kind of often think of just moving our body for the musculoskeletal part, but there's so much in moving your body, moving your lymphatic system and just getting everything moving. And the next one is clean enviro, and that one's really important in terms of, is your environment clean? Are there toxins in your environment that you probably don't even know about? Are you using plastic with your food containers? Are you using, nonstick pans? How clean is your water? All of that. And the last one is having a clean routine and making sure that your daily routine is really geared towards getting you some good sleep, also detoxing you on a daily basis. And so those are the 5 pillars. So we also have a pillars assessment if you guys wanted to check out that free assessment, just to see how clean your pillars are. How well are you doing in your pillars? So those are 2 free assessments that we are offering, and you guys can click the link in my bio and access those. But yeah, I'm really excited about these programs. Myself, I dealt with skin issues first to start off with. And one of the reasons for that for me was my mom had amalgams in her mouth, and amalgams are made up of 50% mercury. And she had all of her teeth had amalgams in them. And so, you know, as a child, I remember scratching and just like smelling like metals were coming out of me. And I, you know, had such bad eczema that my hair all fell out when I was a baby. And so, you know, later on I got tested and found out that I had high heavy metals and high mercury to be exact. And I have no real mercury exposures. So what would those be? Like if you're eating high mercury fish, like tuna, shark, those types of fish, those can have higher mercury. I didn't really like those types of fish. And then, you know, I didn't have any amalgams in my mouth. So where did I get that exposure from? And likely it was from my mom. Now, can't necessarily prove that, but then tested my mom and my mom's was through the roof. So, you know, putting the correlation 1 and 2 together, I was born with eczema, and it was severe right off the bat. And when my mom would breastfeed me, you know, the pediatrician told her I was allergic to her breast milk and I should stop breastfeeding. And so my mom stopped breastfeeding me. She gave me regular formula, and, you know, I probably wasn't necessarily allergic to her breast milk, but possibly she was actually leaking a lot of metals into my system. And so, although she was no longer doing that, you know, then she gave me formula, which also tended to be not such a great thing. I had a lot of ear infections as a kid, and I was just getting sick over and over and over again. And so when your life kind of begins like this and you keep, you know, kind of assaulting the system, and my mom didn't really know about how to feed me. Well, I remember eating a lot of fast food as a kid. My gut started to go awry. And then from there, I would get headaches all the time. And I had now the gut issue. Now I had the headache issue. Then my period came along and I had hormonal issues. And then I started to get older and older and older. And I started to have a hard time losing weight. And I didn't find out till later that my glucose numbers were a little bit off and my cholesterol was off. And this is the progression when we don't really fix the root cause, right? When we don't fix the root cause, we just continue to get more and more and more and more dysfunction. And so in our new assessments, you guys can check them out. You can kind of assess all of your organs and just kind of see how the health of your organs are. Are they clean is what we're looking at. And if your pillars are also clean. And so it's a really great assessment to just kind of see where you're at. So something you guys can do. And someone is asking, how did you detox from the mercury specifically? So there's a couple of ways to detox from mercury. There's so many different ways that we can do this. One way is to do a treatment called chelation, and there's a lot of different chelators that we could use. And chelation is something you're going to have to work with a naturopathic doctor or a doctor to do. And you get a chelator, and basically the chelator kind of pulls all the toxins out from the tissues. And, you know, the unfortunate thing with heavy metals is these things kind of sit in your tissues and they just hang out there for a lifetime. And when you sweat, when you move, these heavy metals can come out. They can cause problems. They can block certain receptors, etc. And so they can just cause issues and put burden on your liver as well too. So chelation is one way. Of course, there's so many other ways. There are really good herbs. There are other types of things like algae and chlorella and spirulina and all these other things that can also help detoxification of heavy metals that we can use naturally as well too. And then doing certain, for me, you know, in my practice, doing certain types of detox treatments like liver gallbladder flushes. I also love colonics. I love infrared sauna. Sweating is a big way you get rid of heavy metals as well too. So it's not just, you know, doing chelation and taking some pills, but what you do in your life is also really important. Drinking a lot of water, all of that is really important. And so it's really kind of multifactorial. You have to make sure your gut's working well. You have to make sure the hormones are working well. You're sleeping and all of that. And so that's really what we hone in on is, okay, what organs are off? Let's really kind of support those organs. Let's get those pillars working and let's get those organs functioning, because when we kind of break it down, we can see based on your symptoms which organs are really not operating well. So that's what's really cool about our Cleanbody assessment. So check it out, it's free. And I'm really excited to kind of launch our new program. It's really, really comprehensive, and we really honed in on the detox funnel before, and now we're kind of expanding. The detox funnel is really focusing on the one function of the body, which is the detoxification process, but we have multiple functions in our system. We have to deal with fuel intake, fuel distribution, which is our food, our oxygen. We have to deal with the communication from our nervous system. That's really important too, in order for everything to work. And even sometimes we have constipation and we have gut issues, and it could actually be a nervous system issue, and it could be a stress issue. And so those are things we want to look at too. And so we really want to take a very comprehensive approach. And the big part of our step one in our process is evaluation, really doing a very good evaluation of why are you in the place you're at. And so kind of assessing the organs first and assessing the pillars. We can see, okay, the pillars are way off. You're eating a really what we call a SAD diet, a standard American diet. Maybe you're eating like hamburger, pizza, no vegetables, that kind of thing. Maybe you're never exercising. So we can see that the pillars might be off. Or are the organs off? And then why are the organs off? Often there's some kind of burden, and the types of burdens will be toxic foods, toxic environment. It might be toxic mind stuff. Maybe you're carrying a lot of trauma. Maybe your lifestyle doesn't look great. And maybe you don't have a great routine. Maybe your circadian rhythm isn't flowing the way you want, and you're not sleeping well. And so all of these are factors in really understanding. So the evaluation process is really, really important. And not only testing, I think we put a lot of focus on testing, but I think one of the things that's going to be really important in our program is really learning how to assess yourself and learning how to evaluate your own health is really important. So we have a really great journaling app where you're going to journal all of your symptoms and kind of like really track your progress. And so that's really great. You start to learn what your dysfunctions are. And I love this in our program, where by the end, people are like, oh, Dr. Fong, this is happening, and I think this is why. And so it's such a big change, because in the beginning you kind of don't understand why you're having symptoms. So I think our new organ assessment's pretty cool. So check it out, because it's interesting to think about, oh, this symptom can be related to this organ dysfunctioning. And I think that's a really cool kind of connection to make, where you're not just thinking of your symptoms as, problems that need medications. You're now thinking of it as problems that can be addressed by addressing the health of the organ and addressing your pillars. Okay. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. We are also doing a bunch of master classes, and we have 4 in particular we're focusing on. So skin, of course, that's why I became a naturopathic doctor. I think there aren't very many answers for us eczema people, but also psoriasis people, and just people dealing with these inflammatory chronic conditions, where the only answer we have is to use steroid creams, and, which have consequences down the line. And come to find out, like, a lot of my dysfunction metabolically and a lot of my function with my circadian rhythm, where I was saying earlier that I was like wired at night, a lot of it also could have been topical steroid withdrawal, which is where you stop using the steroids, which at some point I decided, no, I don't want to use these anymore. And then my hormones just went way off, just like really off. And it's a really big problem, topical steroid withdrawal. And that's something we do address. And so, I think there aren't answers for us skin people. So I'm doing a masterclass next Tuesday. So definitely join us if you are dealing with any skin conditions. But in September, I'm also doing a gut masterclass. So if you have any gut related issues like bloating and constipation and acid reflux and all of that, then definitely check out the masterclass for gut. I'm also doing one on hormones. If you're having any hormonal dysfunction, if you're a woman and have menstrual cycle issues, PCOS, if you're having a hard time getting pregnant, that's something we'll also talk about. If you're a male and having hormonal issues as well too, that'll be a good one to check out. And then I'm also doing one on metabolism, and that includes things like high cholesterol, high diabetes, pre-diabetes, maybe you have fatty liver, or maybe you've been told you have metabolic syndrome, or maybe obesity and just, difficulty losing weight. And the interesting thing is all 4 of these topics are all related. So we will kind of break them out and hone in on those 4 topics. But in reality, mostly everyone who's dealing with some kind of chronic condition can go to almost any one of these classes, at least the gut, the hormone, and the metabolism, because in almost every chronic condition, you're dealing with some kind of dysfunction in those areas. So check out our free masterclasses. The link is also in my bio. The first link in my bio is the one for our skin class, which is coming up soon. And then in September, we're doing the other 3 classes, which you can see the bottom link on my bio, and you can check that out too. Okay, I do want to open it up to any questions. I'm excited to be here. Haven't been here in a while. I haven't posted for like a month or 2. Again, we've been really, really busy at work. So let me answer some questions here. I know you guys had some questions earlier, so just post them again because I was talking when you guys posted. So do you recommend milk thistle and dandelion? So I love these as herbs to support liver function and also support kidney and detoxification. But of course, you should be working with a practitioner if you're using any kind of herbs, and know that some of these may have some allergy, especially if you have allergies to like ragweed or things like that. I do love these herbs though, and they're really great in terms of supporting the liver and the kidney, but I would recommend working with someone to just make sure you're choosing the right herbs. And there are a lot of ways of supporting the liver, not just those herbs, okay? How do you suggest people get off Dupixent? So as I just kind of went through, we need to really do a very thorough evaluation. Then we really need to set up those pillars in a really good way. And so those 5 pillars I mentioned. And sometimes when you set up those pillars, everything gets better. And not sometimes, always. When you set up those pillars, everything gets better. And so setting up those pillars is so important. And so in our program now, our initial program is 2 months long, and we basically hone in on really getting to those pillars because they're so important. I think we don't put enough focus on these 5 things, which is basic health, okay? Then it's about supporting. Once you've done those pillars, and if you still have dysfunction, now we're gonna give you support. And support can include treatments. I love detoxification treatments like colon hydrotherapy, IR sauna, etc. Okay. It's going really fast. You guys need to keep asking, okay? Someone said, currently on a clean protocol, but my toddler is still very itchy and she scratched until she bled. What can I do to help them with the itch? So we need to understand why the itch is happening in the first place. Of course, this is due to cytokines and interleukins that are causing itchiness here on the surface, but why are those being stimulated in the first place? And that's the evaluation process. That's what we're really good at Cleanbody is like, let's do some testing. Let's do some journal evaluation. You need to just be journaling every day so we can really see what's going on as to why there's itch. Now, sometimes that could be a microbial imbalance on the skin. And so I do love to use certain things to kind of affect the microbial balance on the skin. And that can really help with the itch. There are natural ways to kind of lower the cytokines, like Dupixent does, but not Dupixent. Like Dupixent does, we can lower like interleukin 4, interleukin 31, which are all kind of creating that itch, which is what Dupixent is doing, but we have natural ways of doing that, okay? So great question. Someone's asking about CAP, cold atmospheric plasma. For those of you guys who don't know it, this is kind of a new treatment that's not really offered, in a lot of places. And I actually have a patient who's going to Thailand to go do this treatment, and it's very, very, very promising. I think the research on it is very, very promising. They use CAP for wound healing. And it's very, very promising in terms of using it for eczema. Unfortunately, it's not really offered in the US. And so you have to go right now, you have to go to other places to do it. So I'm excited for my patient, and I don't have any personal experience with it. I don't have any patients who have done it yet. But I do have a patient who is going to go do it, and I'm excited for her. Now, what I would say is, really good research behind it. It does affect antimicrobial, have antimicrobial effect on the skin, which is really similar to a lot of the treatments I really like to use. It increases hydrogen peroxide, which I love to use hydrogen peroxide treatments, ozone treatments. So it actually has a similar effect in that department. It also increases stem cells and lowers inflammation. And so I think it's a really great treatment. I do still think it doesn't replace the pillars. It doesn't replace the pillars, and it doesn't replace improving your organ systems. But I think it's a really great adjunctive, and like the research looks really stellar. I'm very excited about it for people specifically with TSW, where you've come off steroids and your skin is just going crazy. And so I really like it for that. And it may be beneficial for some people who are just like in a place where things are just going so nuts that you really kind of need additional support. Okay. What chelator was most effective for clearing your mercury toxicity? I myself use DMSA. There are other chelators, but I personally use DMSA, and I do also like to use that in my practice too. But sometimes I'm going to choose between, for people, what's the best chelator and what's the best approach to take. For kids, I'm going to be maybe a little more gentle sometimes. I like to use homeopathic drainage and herbs and things like that. Okay. 100% agree with you. Do you believe that you can go back to bad skin if we don't take care of our pillars? 100%. Like, I think CAP is probably really similar to some of these other treatments like UV treatments and ozone and hyperbaric oxygen. Like, affecting the outside of the skin is great. And I highly recommend, if you have eczema, you don't just think about internal, but we also think about external. So in our practice, I really like to do internal and external, just kind of like flanking it. Because it's going to be helpful. It's going to make things move faster if you do external. But without pillars, it may all just come back. So I think the pillars are the first and foremost. It's the most important. So our Clean Start program is now basically 9 weeks where we hone in on those pillars. We drill it in. We really design it for you. We get you to a place where you're really just, your life is just stellar in terms of those 5 pillars. Okay. All right. Other questions you can go ahead and ask, but we did have some questions that came in through my story. So someone's asking, is eczema and allergies related to gut health? And I would say 100% gut health is always a part of the process here, because your gut is really your exit point. And if you can't exit toxins out of your body, they're going to overflow. You're also going to grow more microbes in your system. And then that is going to affect your skin and your immune system. And your immune system, like 80% of it is in your gut. And so if your immune system is off, in your gut, it's going to be off on your skin. So it's 100%. And for allergies, my personal allergies improved so greatly when I cleaned up my gut and my liver, my hormones, like all of it. When it all started to get balanced, I used to be really allergic to shrimp, for example, and I can now eat shrimp. Like, I don't eat a lot of it, but I can eat it and I have no problems. Every time I eat it, I'm a little bit scared, and then I'm totally fine, and it always amazes me. Does your program do emotional release? Absolutely. That is the cleaned mind part. It is actually so important, and I think it is not stressed enough when treating any condition, but like if you're treating eczema, I think the emotional piece, like for my journey, it was like 50% of my journey was really getting through my traumas and getting through the things that kept triggering me to cause me to be in a fight or flight. And because I was in a fight or flight, my immune system could not operate and my body couldn't operate. And so my eczema would just flare like every day, every time I was stressed. So we absolutely 100% deal with the emotional part. And in fact, it's like at the very beginning, food and mind. Those to me are 2 of the most important, but I really think all the pillars are important. But those 2, I think, take the cake for me. Those are like the top of the list. Because if you are stressed, if you guys are in fight or flight, your body shuts everything down. Everything that you need to do to heal, your body shuts it all down, okay? All right, what supplement helped you clear your eczema the most is a question. This is a really great question, but I don't have a good answer. We cannot use one supplement, unfortunately. Eczema is a combination of the pillars not being healthy and certain organs not being healthy because there might be burdens on those organs. So the process is take away the burdens, promote the pillar health, and then support the organs if needed. And that's not one supplement. You cannot accomplish this with one supplement. And I also really believe you can't accomplish it with one type of treatment. So I think CAP is very, very promising, but I don't know if that's enough to kind of create a holistic, like I'm in a place now where I never have eczema anymore. And it doesn't matter if I actually like have stress or I eat gluten or I eat dairy or I drink wine. Like it doesn't really matter because my body is so healthy and clean that it doesn't really matter if I do those things. And I don't really take supplements. I take our complete liquid and I take, some of our things, on a weekly basis, but I don't need to take those in order to not have eczema. That's our goal for everybody, okay? Do you have a program for helping rid of asthma? So our program can really support any kind of condition that is inflammatory and chronic like asthma. So absolutely just kind of setting up those pillars and all of that. If you're in California, I can also treat you as a naturopathic doctor as well too, which if there's asthma, we also want to be careful. So depending on where you live is how much support we can give you. If you don't live in California, you may want to also be working with another practitioner and going through our program at the same time. So those are things we could figure out at a discovery consultation. So if you guys are interested in meeting me, you will meet me personally and I'll kind of just assess you. You'll do our assessments first so I can learn a little about you. You'll also journal prior to that visit. And then I'll just kind of figure out how we can support you on your journey. Okay. Thoughts on hair fall post 2020 COVID? Been 3 years and hasn't stopped. Okay, I'm thinking you're talking about your hair falling out post-COVID. And yeah, unfortunately, there are some, long-term effects for some people for COVID. And we need to understand why that might be the case. Hormones could have gone off after COVID and maybe they never came back on. Maybe gut function was dysfunctional. Maybe you're having a little bit of an autoimmune response. We have seen post-COVID or even post-COVID vaccination that sometimes an autoimmune response can be triggered. So we will need to kind of understand that. Again, evaluation. That's really important. We understand. We have to ask why, then we have to answer that question. And it's going to be different for everyone. So some people will have one answer and some people will have another. So we need to really evaluate. Okay. Is steroid cream a no-no? Okay, so I think that steroid cream on an emergency level, using it very, very infrequently can be something that really helps, especially as you're starting the journey of setting up your pillars. However, that's not how steroids are used. Steroids are used as like the only type of treatment that people use. And it can be dangerous for the hormones. It can be dangerous for your metabolism, your hormones. I mean, like every single thing, because your steroid hormones manage like everything in your body, and so it can be dangerous to use long term. And so I really don't like to think of it as an answer. It's not really an answer, but it can be an emergency situation if you're just really dealing with a lot of inflammation, to be used very sparingly. And when I say sparingly, I mean like once a month or something like that, where we are tending to use it every single day. I just told a patient the other day, I remember having a tub of triamcinolone like this big, and I would scoop it and I would just put it all over my body. And no wonder I was just up all night and I couldn't sleep, and, and I was so tired during the day. And those are all symptoms of topical steroid. The other symptoms of topical steroid withdrawal are like just redness and inflammation and just burning all over the skin, which I also had as well too. And unfortunately, that was also when I was pregnant. Okay, how do I control or stop the cycle of itchiness, redness, and peeling? Skin is good, then back. So yeah, we have to answer this by really evaluating, and I think, I know a lot of you guys are looking for an answer, but I think the unfortunate thing is the answer is kind of different for everybody. And stopping the cycle of itching, well, one of those things is actually, if you stop itching, the cycle can stop. But if you keep itching, it kind of continues the interleukin and cytokine response. But we do have natural ways of trying to lower these things. I have some natural ways that are kind of like a natural type of Dupixent. Dupixent is addressing certain interleukins that deal with itchiness. And we have a way naturally of doing that. It's not as long lasting. You have to kind of dose it frequently to get that itch effect to come down. But I do have some ways of just kind of alleviating the itch while we're dealing with everything else, okay? What can I do with severe flare-ups? So we may want to figure out like why you're having these flare-ups. And that could be foods you're eating. It could be emotional stuff you're dealing with. It could be, a whole plethora of things, but sometimes there is a reason you keep flaring. So we need to just figure out what the reason is so we can address it. Okay. All right, guys. Well, it's been such a pleasure. I haven't been here for a while, so it's so nice to see you guys again and just kind of interact with you. I love providing answers and providing support, just because I know what it's like being in your shoes, looking for answers and not being able to find those answers. So I am doing a masterclass. It's a free masterclass next Tuesday at 2 p.m. So if you do want to come to that, it's going to be on skin. And then, as I mentioned, I am doing a couple masterclasses on gut, hormones, and metabolism in September. So you guys can sign up for those as well too. Go to the link in my bio, click the first link for the skin one, and click the last link for the other masterclasses if you want to sign up for those. And we'll go a lot more in depth. Like, we'll talk about the actual tests we would use. We'll talk about actual types of protocols and treatments we might use in the process. Everyone's going to be different though. It's not really a set regimen for any person in our program. Everything is really geared towards our evaluation process. Once we evaluate you and understand what's going on, then we can kind of figure out how we would want to address things specifically for you. So our current new program is now a 2-month program, and that's really the starting point where we're going to set up those pillars first and foremost, right? We're going to do our evaluation and get some testing. And then we are going to then decide how much support you really need and how many protocols you really need. Do you have heavy metals and all that? And after that 2 months, we really kind of decide, okay, this is where we're at, and this is probably what we need to do, and this is how long we might need to do it for, and we can kind of decide that, okay? All right, how can one avoid using prednisone during an emergency asthma attack? Ooh. So asthma is a really hard one. Like it's harder than eczema, because this is life or death with asthma. So if you're having an asthma attack, I would go straight to the emergency things that you would do that really calm that down. But what we really need to understand is why. Why are you having these asthma attacks? It could be food related. Maybe you're putting something in your body that's giving you inflammation. Environment related, mold related. I find mold can be a big one in asthma, and we can test for mold. We can do an intranasal test. We can also do a urine test and check for toxicity as well too. Okay, so those are things we can all test for asthma. But with asthma, this is not something to play around with. Those are times when conventional methods are necessary, when it's kind of a life or death emergency situation. So I would make sure you're working with someone who really can get to the pillars for you, get to the organ health for you, while you're potentially using these emergency, mechanisms to just make sure you're not ending up in the hospital. Okay. And you're very welcome, Modest Designery, and you're very welcome as you also fly me away. All right, guys. So I will be here now. I'm gonna try to do a live weekly just to kind of get back with my Instagram family. But definitely, if you can make it to Tuesday, I hope to see you there. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye bye.